In the dim light of their cramped kitchen, Marcus sneered at his wife of 8 years. "You'll end up begging on the street without me. You penniless nobody." He never imagined the next knock at the door would bring the billionaire father she'd never spoken of, and the $30 billion truth that would shatter his world forever. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. I am Mr. ZAHA. Thanks for tuning in today. A kind words from a man who has seen it all. Marriage are not mostly bed of roses. Sometime you need more of. More of what? Can't say. Continue watching, and you will surely know what to do in situations like this. Kindly hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So let's get started. The coffee maker gurgled its last drops into Elena's chipped mug, the same one she'd bought at a flea market their first year married. She wrapped both hands around it, letting the warmth seep into her palms, trying to chase away the chill that had settled deeper than the winter outside their small apartment window. Marcus burst through the door at 7:42 p.m., exactly 17 minutes later than he'd promised. His tie was loosened, shirt collar open, carrying the faint scent of expensive perfume that wasn't hers. He didn't kiss her cheek like he used to. Instead, he dropped his briefcase with a thud and headed straight for the fridge. "Dinner ready?" he asked without looking at her. "It's in the oven. Chicken casserole. Your favorite." Her voice was soft, practiced. She had learned to keep it that way. He snorted. "Again? You know I hate leftovers reheated. Can't you try something new for once?" Elena stared at the table sheet set, mismatched plates, a single candle half burned from last Valentine's. "I thought you said you liked it last week." "Last week I was being polite." He pulled out a beer, cracked it open. Politeness is expensive when you're married to someone who doesn't bring anything to the table. She flinched, but didn't respond. Instead, she busied herself pulling the dish out, steam rising like a sigh. The apartment smelled of garlic and faded dreams. They had met at 23 in a community college library. She was studying business part-time while working retail. He was finishing his marketing degree on loans and ambition. He called her his quiet storm. She called him her future. They married in a courthouse because money was tight, promising each other the world would come later. Later had become 8 years of him climbing corporate ladders while she stayed behind. First to support him through grad school, then because someone had to keep the home running. She took evening shifts at a bookstore, came home smelling of paper and ink, and listened to his stories of boardrooms and bonuses. Somewhere along the way, his stories stopped including her. Tonight he sat at the table, scrolling his phone. The candle flickered between them like a dying hope. "How was work?" she asked. "Fine. Closed a big account. Boss says promotion's coming." He didn't look up. "You?" "Same." Mrs. Henderson asked about that poetry collection again. "I think she'll buy it this time." He laughed, short, sharp. "Poetry? Right. Because that'll pay the bills." Elena set his plate in front of him. "I enjoy it. It makes me happy." Happy doesn't buy vacations or nice cars. He speared a piece of chicken. "You know what my colleagues' wives do? Yoga instructors, influencers, lawyers. They contribute. You sell books to old ladies." The words landed like stones in still water. Ripples of old hurts spread outward. She sat across from him. "I contribute here. I cook. I clean. I listen. You listen." "Great." He finally met her eyes, cold, impatient. "I need more than a maid and a cheerleader, Elena." She swallowed. "What do you need?" He leaned back. "Someone on my level. Someone who understands ambition. Not this." He gestured at the apartment, at her faded sweater, at the life they'd built. Her fingers tightened around her fork. "You used to say this was enough. Us. People change." He took a long drink of beer. "I have. Maybe you should too." Silence stretched. The clock ticked. Outside, a car horn blared. She spoke quietly. "Is there someone else?" Marcus paused, fork halfway to his mouth. For a second, something flickered. Guilt? Annoyance? Then his face hardened. "Don't start that again. You're paranoid. You come home late. You smell like perfume. Your phone buzzes all night." He slammed the fork down. "So what if there is? Maybe she gets me. Maybe she doesn't drag me down with small dreams and small life." Elena's chest constricted. She'd suspected for months. The late texts, the sudden work trips, the way he guarded his screen. But hearing it aloud felt like glass breaking inside her ribs. "Who?" she whispered. "Doesn't matter." He stood. "Her name's Sophia. She's smart, driven. Her father's a VP at the firm. Connections. Real ones. Elena stared at her plate, food untouched. How long? Long enough to know I'm done pretending. He walked to the bedroom, came back with a folder. I talked to a lawyer. Irreconcilable differences. Clean split. You can keep the furniture. I'll pay alimony for 6 months, out of pity. She looked up, eyes glistening but voice steady. You think money fixes this? Money fixes everything. He smirked. You'll see. Without me, you'll be right back where you started. Nothing. No family money, no fancy degree, no prospects. Just another broke woman wondering where it all went wrong. Elena stood slowly. Her hands trembled, but she folded them in front of her. You never asked about my family, she said. Marcus rolled his eyes. Your family? The ones you never talk about? The estranged father you won't even let me meet? Probably some deadbeat who walked out. Like father, like daughter. She took a breath. His name is Victor Langford. Marcus froze for half a second, then laughed. The Victor Langford? Oil, tech, real estate? The one worth billions? Yeah, right. Nice try, Elena. Desperate much? She didn't smile. I left that life because I wanted love, not legacy. I chose you over everything. Chose poverty, you mean? He shook his head. Save the fairy tale. I'm leaving tomorrow. Pack your things, or don't. I don't care. He turned toward the door. The doorbell rang. Sharp. Insistent. Marcus frowned. Who the hell? Elena walked past him, heart pounding. She opened the door. A tall man in a charcoal overcoat stood there. Silver hair, sharp blue eyes that mirrored hers. Face lined with years of boardrooms and regrets. Behind him, a black SUV idled, 2 security men discreet. Victor Langford looked at his daughter. Elena, he said, voice low and rough with emotion. It's time. Catalyst Victor Langford stepped across the threshold without waiting for an invitation. The hallway light caught the silver threads in his hair and the understated flash of a Patek Philippe watch that probably cost more than their entire apartment building. Behind him, one of the security men closed the door softly, staying just inside like a shadow. Marcus stood frozen in the middle of the living room, beer still in hand, mouth half open from whatever sarcastic comeback he'd been about to deliver. The smirk died on his lips. Elena hadn't moved from the doorway. Her eyes were locked on her father, the man she hadn't seen in person since she was 24, the day she told him she was marrying a normal man and walking away from the Langford empire. Back then he'd called it childish rebellion. She'd called it choosing love. Now he was here, unannounced. After 8 years of silence broken only by the occasional and signed bank transfer, she always returned. Dad, she whispered. The word felt foreign on her tongue. Victor's gaze swept the room. The peeling wallpaper, the second-hand couch, Marcus's half-eaten casserole growing cold on the table. His expression remained unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes when they landed on Elena. Pain, perhaps, or recognition of the cost she had paid. Elena, he repeated, softer this time. May I come in properly? She nodded mutely and stepped aside. Marcus finally found his voice. What the hell is this? Some kind of prank? You hired an actor to play Daddy Warbucks. Victor turned toward him slowly, assessing him the way a boardroom full of executives might size up a failing division. You must be Marcus, Victor said. His voice was calm, cultured, edged with frost. I've heard very little about you. Marcus laughed, too loud, too forced. Yeah, because there's nothing to tell. Elena here likes to keep her sad little family history under wraps. Guess the cat's out of the bag now that she's desperate. Elena's fingers curled into fists at her sides. Marcus, stop. No, let him talk. Victor raised a hand, silencing her without looking away from Marcus. I want to hear this. Marcus puffed up, mistaking the invitation for weakness. He set the beer down hard enough to slosh foam onto the table. Look, whoever you are, rich cosplayer, con man, whatever, it doesn't change facts. Your daughter's been riding my coattails for years. No job worth mentioning, no ambition, no money. I carried us. And now she's trying to scare me with fairy tales about being some billionaire's kid? Please. Victor tilted his head slightly. Scare you? Yeah. She's pulling the inheritance card because I told her I'm done. I'm filing tomorrow. She'll be on the street without me, just like I said. A muscle ticked in Victor's jaw, the first crack in his composure. Elena stepped forward. Dad, you don't have to. I do, Victor said quietly. He reached into his coat, and withdrew a slim leather folder. He opened it and placed it on the coffee table between them. Inside lay several documents. A trust instrument dated 25 years ago naming Elena Marie Langford sole beneficiary upon her 30th birthday, which had passed quietly 3 months earlier. Audited financial statements showing liquid assets exceeding $20 billion. Transfer records of the unsigned deposits Elena had rejected over the years, and a single photograph, Elena at 18, standing beside her mother at a charity gala, both smiling in evening gowns that now looked like relics from another life. Marcus glanced at the papers, then back at Victor, then at the papers again. His laugh this time was weaker. This is Photoshop. Some elaborate setup. You think I'm stupid? Victor pulled out his phone, tapped the screen twice, and turned it toward Marcus. A live feed from Bloomberg appeared. A breaking news ticker scrolling at the bottom. Langford Family Trust activates. Heiress Elena Langford now controls $30 billion plus portfolio after years of deliberate anonymity. Marcus's face drained of color. Victor spoke evenly. The story broke 47 minutes ago. My PR team tried to keep it quiet until I could speak to my daughter privately. Clearly that plan has complications. Elena stared at the screen, then at her father. You released it? I had no choice, Victor said. The trust terms required public disclosure upon activation. I delayed the announcement as long as legally possible. I was hoping you'd come to me first. She shook her head slowly. I didn't want it. I still don't. Marcus snatched the phone from Victor's hand, scrolled frantically, then shoved it back. This is real. His voice cracked on the last word. Victor nodded once. Marcus looked at Elena as if seeing her for the first time. Not the quiet wife in the faded sweater, but someone who had chosen to live small. Someone who had turned down billions for him. And he had just spent the last hour telling her she was nothing. He swallowed. You let me talk to you like that. For years. You let me. I loved you, Elena said simply. Tears shimmered but didn't fall. I thought if I stayed small, you'd stay with me. Marcus staggered back a step, bumping the couch. I didn't know. You never asked. Silence crashed through the room like a physical force. Victor cleared his throat. Elena, we should speak privately. There are decisions. No. She turned to her father, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Not yet. This is between me and my husband first. Victor studied her for a long moment. The daughter who had once defied him, now standing taller in a life he had never understood. Finally, he inclined his head. I'll wait in the car. Take the time you need. He turned toward the door. The security man opened it for him. Just before he stepped out, Victor paused and looked back at Marcus. You mocked her poverty, he said quietly. Be careful what you wish for when wealth arrives. It rarely forgives pride. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Marcus and Elena stood alone in the wreckage of their marriage. He looked at her, really looked. And for the first time in years, there was no sneer, no sarcasm. Only dawning horror. Elena. His voice broke. I don't. She held up a hand. Not yet. She walked past him to the kitchen window, staring out at the black SUV idling below. Rain had begun to fall, smearing the streetlights into halos. Behind her, Marcus sank onto the couch, head in his hands. The casserole had gone cold. The candle had guttered out. And somewhere in the quiet between them, the first real crack appeared in the wall he had built. The rain had thickened into a steady downpour by the time Victor's SUV pulled away from the curb, red taillights bleeding into the wet asphalt like open wounds. Inside the apartment, the silence that followed his departure was heavier than any argument they'd ever had. Elena remained at the kitchen window, arms wrapped tightly around herself, as though holding her own pieces together. The glass was cold against her forehead. She watched the streetlights refract through raindrops, each one a tiny, trembling mirror of the life she thought she'd chosen. Marcus hadn't moved from the couch. His elbows rested on his knees, face buried in his palms. The folder of documents still lay open on the coffee table like an accusation no one wanted to touch. The Bloomberg ticker on his abandoned phone had refreshed twice more, each time adding new headlines. Langford Heiress's secret life exposed. $30 billion fortune held in trust for 8 years. Why did Elena Langford reject billions? Sources say love was the reason. He lifted his head slowly. His eyes were red-rimmed, not from crying. Not yet. But from the kind of stunned disbelief that makes the world feel suddenly too bright and too sharp. Elena, he said hoarsely. Talk to me. She didn't turn. What would you like me to say, Marcus? Anything. Yell at me. Hit me. Tell me I'm garbage. Just something. She finally faced him. The candle had long since died. The only light came from the single bulb above the stove, casting harsh shadows across her face. You already said everything tonight. You said I was nothing. You said I'd end up begging. You said there was someone else who gets you. He winced as though each word were a fresh cut. I was angry. I was cruel. She finished the sentence for him, voice flat. You were cruel. And you meant every word. Don't dress it up now that the math doesn't add up in your favor. Marcus stood. His legs seemed unsteady. He took one step toward her, then stopped when she stiffened. I didn't know. He repeated, quieter this time. If I had known, you would have treated me differently? She gave a small, bitter laugh. That's worse, Marcus. That's so much worse. You were only kind when it suited you. The moment you thought I had nothing left to offer, you threw me away. He opened his mouth, closed it. There was no defense for that. His phone buzzed violently on the table. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. He glanced at the screen and blanched. Sophia. Elena saw the name flash and felt something twist deep in her chest. Not jealousy anymore, but a weary confirmation. Answer it, she said. No, answer it, Marcus. She deserves to know her boyfriend just became a billionaire by marriage, or was about to, anyway. He stared at the phone as though it might bite him. After the 4th ring, it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text preview appeared. Sophia. Where are you? Your boss just called me. Said the Langford thing is all over the news. Is this real? Call me now. Marcus's hand shook as he silenced the device and flipped it face down. Elena watched him with an almost clinical detachment. You should go to her. She's probably panicking. Her father's a VP, right? Connections. Real ones. Isn't that what you wanted? Stop, he whispered. Why? You spent months telling me how much better she is. How much more she brings. How much more she understands ambition. Elena's voice cracked on the last word. Go be ambitious with her. Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees in front of her. Not dramatically, not theatrically, but like a man whose strings had finally been cut. I don't want her, he said. Tears slipped down his cheeks now, silent and fast. I never really wanted her. I wanted to feel like I was winning. Like I was somebody. And I thought tearing you down made me taller. Elena looked down at him. Really looked. The man who once carried her over puddles on their first date, who cried when she said yes to his proposal in a parking lot because he couldn't afford a restaurant. The man who had slowly been replaced by someone she barely recognized. She didn't touch him. Not yet. Do you know what the worst part is? She asked softly. I believed you. Every time you said I was holding you back, I believed it. I shrank myself smaller and smaller so you could feel big. I turned down my father's calls, returned his money, pretended I came from nothing, because I thought that's what love looked like. Sacrificing everything so you could have everything. Marcus's shoulders shook. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't erase 8 years of being told you're worthless. I know. She crouched slowly until they were eye level. Then why did you keep saying it? He met her gaze, raw, stripped bare. Because I was terrified. Terrified you'd wake up one day and see me for what I really am, average. Scared. Not enough. So I made sure you felt smaller than me. That way you'd never leave. The confession hung between them like smoke. Elena stood again. She walked to the bedroom and returned with an old shoebox she kept under the bed. Inside were letters, yellowed, handwritten, from her father. Birthday cards she'd never opened. A single photo of her mother laughing at a yacht party. Elena as a toddler on her hip. She set the box on the table beside the trust documents. I kept these, she said. Because even when I chose you, I couldn't completely let go of who I was. But I never used them. Not once. Not even when you screamed that we couldn't afford the electric bill, or when you said my bookstore job was embarrassing. I wanted to prove I could love you without the money. That you were enough. Marcus stared at the box as though it might explode. And now, he asked, now I don't know what enough looks like anymore. She walked to the front door and opened it. Rain swept in on a cold gust. Go home to Sophia tonight, she said. Or go to a hotel. I need space. I need to think. Elena, please. He rose slowly, like an old man. He looked around the apartment, the chipped mugs, the mismatched plates, the life he had mocked, and something in his expression fractured. I'll go, he said. But I'm not giving up. Not on you. Not on us. She didn't answer. He gathered his coat, his briefcase, his dignity, what was left of it, and stepped into the hallway. The door closed behind him with the same soft click Victor had used earlier. Elena locked it. Then she slid down the door until she sat on the floor, knees to chest, and finally, let the tears come. Outside, Marcus stood under the awning, rain drumming inches from his shoes. He pulled out his phone. Sophia had sent 7 more messages. He deleted the thread without reading them. Then he opened his contacts, scrolled to his boss's name, and typed, resigning effective immediately. Personal reasons. Effective tonight. He hit send before he could second-guess it. Across town, in the Langford family's Manhattan penthouse, Victor sat in his study staring at a 40-year-old photograph of his late wife holding baby Elena. The room smelled of leather and old books and regret. His phone buzzed. A text from his head of security. Subject Marcus Hale, left the residence 22 minutes ago. Appears distraught. No destination confirmed. Wife remains inside alone. Victor typed back one word. Watched. He set the phone down and poured 2 fingers of scotch. He didn't drink it. He just held the glass and remembered the day Elena told him she was leaving the family business to marry a man who loves me for me. He had laughed then, called it romantic delusion. Now he wasn't laughing. Back in the apartment, Elena's phone lit up with notifications. Friends from the bookstore, old college classmates, even a cousin she hadn't spoken to in years, all asking the same thing. Is it true? Are you really Victor Langford's daughter? She turned the phone off. She walked to the closet and pulled out the dress she'd worn on their wedding day. Simple white cotton, nothing extravagant. She held it against herself in front of the mirror. It still fit. She didn't cry again. Instead, she whispered to her reflection, "You survived him once. You can survive whatever comes next." Across the city, Marcus sat in his car in an empty parking garage, engine off, rain hammering the roof. He opened the glove compartment and took out the small velvet box he'd kept there for months, the one containing an upgrade to Elena's wedding ring he'd bought with his last bonus, intending to give it to her when things got better. He opened it. The diamond caught the dim overhead light and threw tiny rainbows across the dashboard. He closed the box again. Then he started the car and drove, not towards Sophia's upscale condo, but toward the only place he could think to go, his parents' old house in Queens, the one he hadn't visited since he started making real money, and decided their modest life embarrassed him. He needed to remember who he'd been before pride ate him alive. Meanwhile, Elena sat at the kitchen table with her father's letters spread out before her. She opened the most recent one, dated 3 weeks, AGO.M. Why, dearest Elena, I know you still return the transfers. I know you still won't answer my calls. But I need you to hear this once. I was wrong. I thought protecting the empire meant protecting you from weakness. I forgot that strength sometimes looks like vulnerability, like love without conditions. If you ever need me, not the money, not the name, just me. I'm here. Always your father. Victor. She pressed the letter to her chest. For the first time in 8 years, she didn't feel small. She felt seen, and terrifyingly, dangerously free. The next morning arrived gray and unforgiving. Elena woke on the couch. She hadn't made it to the bedroom. Her neck stiff, eyes swollen from the tears she'd finally allowed herself after Marcus left. The apartment smelled faintly of cold casserole and rain-soaked regret. She didn't rush to clean. For once, she let the mess stay. Her phone, powered back on at dawn, held 37 unread messages and 12 missed calls. Most were from numbers she didn't recognize, reporters, distant relatives crawling out of the woodwork, a few old friends asking if she was okay. One voicemail from her father, left at 3:17 a.m. Elena, I'm not going to push. But if you need to talk, not about money, not about the trust, just about us. I'm at the penthouse. Doors open. Always has been. She listened to it twice. His voice cracked on the last sentence. She didn't call back. Not yet. Instead, she showered, dressed in jeans and the same faded sweater Marcus had mocked the night before, and made coffee in the chipped mug. She sat at the kitchen table with her father's open letter and the trust documents spread before her, like a map of 2 lives she'd tried to keep separate. At 9:42 a.m., the doorbell rang. She knew who it was before she opened it. Marcus stood in the hallway looking like he hadn't slept. Dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed, still wearing yesterday's shirt. now wrinkled and damp at the shoulders from the rain he'd clearly walked through. He held a small paper bag in one hand and the velvet ring box in the other. He didn't try to smile. He just looked at her with the raw, stripped expression of someone who'd spent the night staring into the mirror of his own mistakes. "Can I come in?" he asked. His voice was quiet, almost childlike. Elena stepped aside. No words. Just the door opened. He entered slowly, as though the space might collapse around him. He set the paper bag on the counter, coffee and bagels from the corner place they used to go to on Sunday mornings, and placed the ring box beside it like an offering. "I resigned," he said without preamble. "Last night. Texted my boss. Told Sophia it's over, face to face, at her place." She threw a wine glass at the wall. "I didn't duck. Deserved it." Elena leaned against the doorway to the kitchen, arms crossed. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know I'm not running to the next shiny thing. I'm trying to clean up the mess I made." He looked around the apartment, the same one he'd called small and embarrassing less than 24 hours ago, and his throat worked. "This place, it's ours. I forgot that." She didn't respond. She watched him. Marcus took a breath that sounded painful. "I drove to my mom's last night. Sat on her porch until sunrise. She didn't ask questions, just made me pancakes like I was 16 again. She said, 'You look like your father when he lost his job in '98. Scared. Angry at the world. Mostly at himself.' She was right. He met Elena's eyes. "I've been angry at myself for a long time. Easier to aim it at you." Elena's jaw tightened. "You aimed it well." "I know." He stepped closer, not crowding, just enough to close some of the distance. "I rehearsed this in the car for hours. Every version sounded fake. So I'm just going to say it ugly and honest, because that's what I owe you." He sank to one knee, not dramatically, not like a proposal redo, but like a man laying down his weapons. "I cheated on you because I was terrified you'd see I wasn't enough. I mocked your job, your dreams, your family because if you felt small, I could pretend I was big. I told you you'd end up with nothing because deep down I believed I was the nothing one. And when your father walked in last night, when I saw those papers, I realized I'd spent 8 years punishing the only person who ever believed I could be more." Tears tracked down his face now, unashamed. "I don't want the money, Elena. I don't want the name, the connections, the upgrade. I want the woman who chose me when I had student loans and bad haircuts and nothing to offer but promises. I want her back. Even if she never looks at me the same. Even if forgiveness takes years. Even if it never comes." Elena's own eyes filled. She didn't wipe the tears away. "I loved you," she said, voice trembling. "I loved you so much I shrank myself to fit inside your fear. I let you call me poor, worthless, nothing, because I thought if I argued, you'd leave. And I was more afraid of losing you than losing myself." Marcus bowed his head. "I'm so sorry I made you choose." She stepped forward then, slowly, and crouched in front of him so they were eye to eye. "Do you know what I kept thinking last night?" she asked. "After you left. After Dad's voicemail. I kept thinking, I could walk away now. Take the money, start over, never see your face again. I could be the one who leaves. For once." Marcus flinched, but didn't look away. "But every time I pictured that," she continued, "I saw the boy who proposed in a grocery store parking lot with a $49 ring because it was all he could afford. I saw the man who held me when my mom died, even though he barely knew her. I saw us laughing until we couldn't breathe over burnt dinners and inside jokes no one else understood." She reached out and touched his cheek, first contact since the night before. His skin was warm, damp with tears. "I don't want to lose that man," she whispered. "But I can't live with the one who replaced him." Marcus covered her hand with his. "Then help me kill him. Please. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, no money, humble job, living in this apartment until we both forget what luxury feels like. I'll earn your trust back one honest day at a time. Just don't let me go." Elena searched his face, really searched. She saw the fear still there, the shame, but beneath it something new, surrender. Not to her wealth, to her. She stood, pulling him up with her. "I'm not promising easy," she said. "I'm not promising I won't hurt for a long time. I'm not even promising I won't need space sometimes. But I'm promising I'll try, if you try harder." Marcus nodded, throat too tight for words. She picked up the velvet box from the counter, opened it. The upgraded diamond caught the gray morning light and scattered tiny prisms across the chipped formica. "You bought this before you knew," she said. Not a question. Months ago, he answered. I wanted to give it to you when things felt right again. I never found the moment. Elena closed the box gently. Keep it. Not as an upgrade. As a reminder of who we were and who we're choosing to be again. She set it aside, then walked to the table where the trust folder still lay. I'm not touching this money for us, she said. Not yet. Maybe never the way the world expects. I want to use it the way Mom would have, quietly. Scholarships. Bookstores in underserved neighborhoods. Homes for women who feel small. But that's my choice. Not yours. Not Dad's. Mine. Marcus nodded. I understand. She looked at him. Really looked. And something inside her loosened, just a fraction. Come here, she said. He stepped into her arms like a man stepping into shelter after years in a storm. She held him tightly, feeling his heartbeat against hers. Fast, unsteady, but alive. I forgive you, she whispered against his shoulder. Not because you deserve it yet, but because I choose to. Because I love the man you're trying to become more than I hate the one you were. Marcus broke then, quiet, wrenching sobs into her neck. She held him through it, stroking his hair the way she used to when nightmares woke him in the middle of the night. When the worst of it passed, he pulled back just enough to look at her. I love you, he said. Simple. Raw. I never stopped. I just forgot how to show it. I know, she answered. We'll relearn together. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Elena wiped her face. That'll be Dad. He said he'd check in. Marcus straightened, suddenly self-conscious. Should I go? No, she said firmly. You stay? This is our home. Our mess. Our beginning again. She opened the door. Victor stood there, coat dripping, eyes wary but hopeful. He looked from Elena's tear-streaked face to Marcus standing behind her, red-eyed and resolute. Victor didn't speak first. Elena did. Dad, she said. This is Marcus. My husband. He's staying. We're trying. Victor studied Marcus for a long, silent moment. Then he extended his hand. Not the perfunctory boardroom shake, but slow, deliberate. Marcus took it. Their grip held a beat longer than necessary. I hurt your daughter, Marcus said quietly. Badly. I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking you to watch me earn the right to stand beside her. Victor's eyes narrowed, assessing. Then he nodded once. I will, he said. And if you fail her again, I won't need security to handle it. Marcus swallowed. Understood. Victor looked at Elena. You sure about this? She smiled, small, tired, but real. I'm sure I want to try. The rest, we'll figure out. Victor stepped inside. For the first time in 8 years, he crossed the threshold of his daughter's home. Not as a billionaire rescuing his wayward child, but as a father invited in. The three of them stood in the cramped living room, awkward and fragile and somehow, impossibly, beginning. Elena reached for Marcus's hand. He laced his fingers through hers. Victor watched the gesture. Something in his posture softened. Coffee? Elena asked. Victor's mouth twitched, the ghost of a smile. Only if it's terrible and cheap. I could use reminding what normal tastes like. Marcus let out a shaky laugh. Coming right up. As he moved to the kitchen, Elena leaned into her father's side. Just for a second. Thank you, she whispered. For coming. For waiting. Victor pressed a kiss to her temple. Always, kid. In the kitchen, Marcus poured 3 mugs with hands that still trembled slightly. He set them on the table. Mismatched, chipped. Perfect. They Saturday not fixed. Not perfect. Not even close. But together, and for the first time in years, that felt like enough. 3 months passed like seasons in fast forward, slow in the living of them, breathtaking in the looking back. The apartment still had mismatched plates and chipped mugs, but now the shelves held new poetry collections Elena had ordered for the bookstore, and a small framed photo of the 3 of them, Elena, Marcus, and Victor, taken on a rare sunny afternoon in Central Park. No one smiled too widely in the picture. The smiles were tentative, earned, the kind that knew what it cost to get there. Marcus had taken a job at a small marketing firm downtown, not the corner office with glass walls, but a cubicle with a view of a brick wall and a salary that barely covered rent and groceries. He left the house at 7:15 every morning carrying a thermos of coffee Elena made, kissed her forehead, and said the same thing every day. I love you. I'll be better today than yesterday. She believed him because she saw it. He attended therapy twice a week. Individual sessions on Tuesdays, couples on Thursdays. The first few couple sessions had been brutal. Silences that stretched like rubber bands about to snap, tears that came without warning, questions from the therapist that felt like surgery without anesthesia. Marcus never missed one, never arrived late, never blamed traffic or work or Elena. He came home one Thursday night in early December with red eyes and a single sheet of paper folded in his pocket. He waited until they were sitting on the couch, the TV muted, before he handed it to her. It was a letter he'd written during session, homework from the therapist. Elena read it slowly, aloud, because some things needed to be spoken to be real. Elena, I used to think forgiveness was something you gave because the other person deserved it. I know now it's something you give because you refuse to let poison stay inside you. I poisoned us for years. I poisoned you most of all. Every cruel word, every late night, every time I chose pride over kindness. I see them now like scars on your skin that I put there. I can't erase them. I can only promise to never add another one. You chose me when I had nothing to recommend me but hope. I repaid that with contempt. If you ever doubt whether I understand the weight of what I did, look at this. I keep a photo of us from our wedding day in my wallet. Not the posed one. The candid where you're laughing because I tripped over my own feet trying to dip you. I look at it every day and ask myself how a man who once made you laugh like that could turn around and make you cry for years that I don't expect you to forget. I only ask that you let me spend the rest of my life proving I remember. Yours. Always. Even when I didn't act like it. Marcus. She folded the letter carefully, pressed it to her chest, then leaned over and kissed him. Slow, deliberate. The way people kiss when they know time is no longer borrowed. I kept the letter, she whispered against his lips. I'll keep reading it when the hurt tries to come back. He nodded, throat too tight to speak. Victor had become a quiet, steady presence. He didn't swoop in with private jets or penthouse offers. Instead, he showed up on Sunday afternoons with grocery bags, fresh produce, good bread, the kind of things Elena used to splurge on only for special occasions. He sat at their kitchen table and listened while Marcus talked about his new job, asked real questions, didn't condescend. One Sunday in January, Victor arrived with something different, a small wooden box that he set it between them. I had this made, he said, for both of you. Inside lay 2 plain gold bands, thicker than wedding rings, engraved on the inside with the same phrase, chosen every day. Elena slipped hers on immediately. Marcus stared at his for a long moment, then looked at Victor. You didn't have to, I wanted to, Victor said. Not because of money. Because I see you trying. And because my daughter deserves to wear something that reminds her she's chosen, not tolerated. Marcus slid the band onto his finger beside his original wedding ring. It fit perfectly. Victor cleared his throat. I also wanted to tell you both something. He looked at Elena first. I was wrong to let pride keep us apart for so long. I thought if I withheld affection, you'd come running back to the life I built. I forgot you were building your own. I'm proud of the woman you became without me. And I'm sorry it took a crisis for me to say it. Elena reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I'm sorry I shut you out. I was afraid if I let you in, I'd lose the life I chose. Turns out there was room for both. Victor turned to Marcus. As for you. He paused, choosing his words. I wanted to hate you. It would have been easier. But hate doesn't leave space for change. I see you changing. That's enough for me to keep the door open. Just don't make me regret it. Marcus met his gaze steadily. I won't. Victor nodded once, short, final, the way men seal agreements older than words. After Victor left that afternoon, Elena and Marcus stood together at the sink washing dishes. Routine. Ordinary. Sacred. She handed him a plate. I've been thinking about the money. He dried it carefully. Yeah. I want to start something small. A foundation. Nothing flashy. Focus on literacy programs in low-income areas, scholarships for women going back to school later in life, safe housing for women leaving bad situations. Quiet work. Real work. Marcus set the plate down. I like that. I also want to keep living like this, she said. Not poor. Not rich in the loud way. Just comfortable enough to be generous. This apartment, this life, it reminds me what matters. He turned off the faucet, dried his hands, then pulled her close. Then we keep it, he said. And we use whatever else we need to help people who feel the way you used to feel. Invisible. Small. Unchosen. She rested her forehead against his. Exactly. 6 months after the night Victor knocked on their door, they held a small, private ceremony. Not a renewal of vows in front of crowds, but something quieter. They rented a rooftop garden in Brooklyn on a clear spring evening. Only 20 people. Victor, Marcus's mother and sister, a handful of Elena's bookstore friends, the therapist who'd walked them through the worst of IT in designer gowns. Elena wore the same simple white cotton dress from their courthouse wedding, freshly cleaned and pressed. Marcus wore the suit he'd bought for his first real job interview years ago, still a little tight across the shoulders now that he'd started lifting again, trying to feel strong in his own skin. They stood under strings of fairy lights, holding hands, while an officiant friend read the vows they'd written together. Marcus went first. Marcus, take you, Elena. Not just the woman you were when we met, but the woman you became while I was too blind to see her. I promise to choose you every day, even on the days I don't like myself very much. I promise to listen when you speak your truth, to hold your pain without running from it, to celebrate your strength instead of fearing it. I promise to be the man who makes you feel safe enough to be big again. Elena's voice trembled only once. Elena, take you, Marcus, not because you're perfect, but because you're trying. I forgive the past not because it disappears, but because I refuse to let it define our future. I promise to trust you as you earn it, to speak when I'm hurting instead of shrinking, to love you loudly even when the world tells me I should be quiet. I promise to choose us, every messy, beautiful day. They exchanged the new bands over the old ones. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your wife," Marcus cupped her face with both hands and kissed her like it was the first time, and the last time, and every time in between. The small crowd cheered, quietly, warmly, the way people cheer when they've witnessed something fragile become strong. Later, after cake and laughter and too many photos, Victor pulled Elena aside near the edge of the rooftop. He handed her an envelope. She opened it. Inside, a single sheet of paper transferring a modest trust, $5 million, to the foundation she'd named Seen and Chosen. Not the whole $20 billion, he said. The rest stays in the family trust for your children, for emergencies, for whatever you decide. This is just the beginning. Elena hugged him tightly. Thank you, Dad. He kissed the top of her head. Thank you for letting me be part of this second chance. Marcus joined them, slipping an arm around Elena's waist. Victor looked at him. You're doing good work, son. Marcus swallowed hard. Trying to, sir. Victor clapped him on the shoulder. Keep trying. That's all any of us can do. The night ended with the three of them sitting on a bench overlooking the city lights. Victor in the middle, Elena and Marcus on either side. One spoke for a long while. Then Elena said softly, I used to think love meant giving everything up. Now I think it means building something together, even after it's been broken. Marcus squeezed her hand. And redemption isn't a one-time event. It's every morning you choose differently. Victor nodded slowly. And family isn't just blood. It's who stays when the truth comes out. They sat there until the city quieted, three people who had traveled very different roads to arrive at the same place. Later that night, back in their apartment, Marcus and Elena lay in bed, lights off. Only the street lamp glow coming through the blinds. She traced the new band on his finger. Do you ever think about that night? She asked. The night Dad showed up? Every day, he said. It's the day I almost lost everything, and the day I started getting it back. She nestled closer. I'm glad you stayed. I'm glad you let me. They fell asleep like that, tangled, breathing in rhythm, no longer afraid of tomorrow. Outside, the city hummed on. Inside, two people who had once mocked and mourned each other now slept in peace. And somewhere in the quiet spaces between heartbeats, forgiveness finished its slow, patient work. Not a fairy tale ending, but a real one, hard one. Beautiful. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.